All right, we know the fourth Hatsune Miku Secret Lair was coming. Of course, the Winter Drop 1 is the fourth of what I believe is a 4-layer deal they made. And people are kind of excited about this one more than any other because of the Snapcaster Mage promo, which, if you guys haven't seen, we've talked about in the past. But this Snapcaster Mage promo Encore Electromancer version here was found in the bonus slot of the first Secret Lair, but very, very few actually surfaced. It has a significantly high price tag right now, and some of the theory was that it was going to end up being the guaranteed bonus card of the Winter Secret Lair because of the code on the bottom of the 808 and how that lined up with the other codes. At this point, I don't know yet whether or not that's going to be the case, because while we do have the breakdown for the Secret Lair, we don't have any details on the bonus, so all of it's going to be with a grain of salt, but this will probably be a must-buy if it does have that Snapcaster Mage Secret Lair promo in it. Whether or not that's going to happen, I'm not sure. Would it shock me if it was still just a super rare bonus card that Wizard somehow slipped into the first one to generate hype and then you could maybe pull it here? No. It wouldn't, but it would be really cool if it was a guaranteed one, but I would say that that's more than likely going to end up causing this to sell out pretty quickly. So, this is part of the Winter 2025 Super Drop, and there are 6 new cards. We're going to talk about them all here really quickly in this brief video, but if you guys have been keeping up with the previous Hatsune Miku Secret Lairs, one of the biggest criticisms for a lot of them have been the artwork. It is mostly kind of unimpressive. They really have shown that they can make some great anime-style cards. We see it with the Japan Showcase cards in the most recent booster sets, but for some reason they've chosen to go in a slightly different direction with Miku, even though she is quite literally an anime character that is designed that way. I'm not really sure. But the artwork, I have to tell you, has not changed a ton, even on these new ones, which we'll get a quick look at here. I mean, it's just such a shame the way they've chosen to go about it, but this is the actual new Secret Lair Super Drop here that you'll see now on the screen. There are 6 new cards. We have Swan Song, we have Miku, Font of Pop, which is a reskin of Giada, Font of Hope. We have Youthful Valkyrie, Counterspell, Miku, Queen Electric, and Scrying Sheets. Now, out of these 6, I think Swan Song's art is kind of okay, although I haven't seen like a high-res close-up because none are like out there yet. So I'm kind of reserving judgment to change my mind on that possibly. But as it stands, I think that one's okay. And it's obviously a really good reprint because Swan Song is just an awesome card that is generally useful as a counterspell option in a lot of different decks. We've got Giotto again, which again has already been printed super recently. It was in Foundations with a billion different variants and stuff. So I'm a little bit surprised they went with that as the choice here. But I also think that they probably plan a lot of this stuff out way in advance. So maybe it was just a way the timelines lined up. I'm not sure. I can't say Giada as a reprint from like a value perspective does anything for me because it's, again, so easily accessible. But it's a good card, and if people like Miku, they'll probably like this. The artwork, though, not great. I'll see if I can zoom in here on my computer for a minute without making it super hard to see. I don't know if this helps in the slightest, but it just looks so weird. I can't really describe it. It's like too human-like, and it's odd. And you kind of see the same thing with some of the other ones here. I am not a fan of the way they chose to do this. But alas, Youthful Valkyrie, good card. Again, reprinted relatively recently, but definitely an Angel kind of staple card, if you will, especially in Commander. Counterspell is always good to see, like, Counterspell reprint of, like, people who want their choices for the fanciest Counterspell, whatever their preferences are. Brago King Eternal, not a bad reprint either. We're going to talk about some of these cards individually in a second here. And then Scrying Sheets, which is a Snowland, which is, interestingly, I love the snowman in the art, but again, the depiction of Miku there is just a bit weird, although I guess less offensive than some of the other ones. So let's put that back to normal. And just talk about a little bit why this is kind of relevant. If you guys haven't yet, be sure to go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Click the bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos are posted. And I very much appreciate the support. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of this Secret Lair. But let's talk value for a little bit here. So Swan Song, definitely a good reprint. It's around $10 at the cheapest, and that's for the Commander version from Lord of the Rings. The Theros one around $12. And while the Lord of the Rings stuff was really successful, I do think is a large, grouping of people who do prefer more traditional Magic art. And obviously this doesn't fall into that category, but my point is, in terms of the actual reprint value, $12, $13, not bad for an inclusion that I think over time, will go back up, especially because a Secret Lair print doesn't really do a ton for, flooding the market with new copies. It just kind of gives people a bit of a chance to get some things that they may need. So I'm happy with that reprint. I do think it's good value. I don't love the art, but again, at least having more accessible copies of the card is a good thing. Counterspell. No real copies of Counterspell are ever worth anything crazy. It's usually like a $2 card, and there's a million prints, so, it's not a card that's hard to get if you need it, but like I said, there are different variants that are very, very popular, and it has been in Secret Lairs before. This one's a little bit more of the exception. This was the playtest version of it, and at one point it was selling for crazy value. I don't know how much it's selling for nowadays. But just looking at some other, variant artwork, some cool Secret Lair drops of Counterspell like this one here. And I mean, it's got a million different alternate ways you could play it. So even if you don't like the artwork, it's fine. But there's so many reprints of Counterspell that I don't think anyone's going to be like, this is necessary. But it's not a card you'd be upset to get in there. So I guess take that with a grain of salt. Youthful Valkyrie, again, like I said, was just in Foundation, so it did drop a lot. It was actually decently valued prior to that, especially for an uncommon, but it's a good card, so it's not awful. I would feel a lot less offended by this, in terms of the offerings, if it wasn't such a weirdly designed art card from the Miku one. But Youthful Valkyrie is just a card that it's 18 cents, give or take, so it's not really like a good value inclusion here. So, I'm not all that impressed by it, but it's not all about value. I say that a lot with the Secret Lair stuff. I think that's important to kind of hammer home. People like to collect. People like to collect stuff with characters they like. That's kind of the appeal of these things, but it doesn't mean they can't, also maybe put some, better value reprints in there for the incentive to get people to buy them, but perhaps they don't have to because they sell well. I don't know. It's one of the great conundrums with the Secret Lairs is that we know Wizards is capable of making good ones because they have, but then they churn out some that are just really underwhelming as a whole. Brago, really good card, obviously, very popular commander. Not super pricey, though, about $2, give or take. Having a quote-unquote premium version is certainly interesting because he doesn't have any, so I guess people that like Miku and also want to have a more blinged-out version of Brago, you do have that on the table. Again, his artwork is really cool, and I think when you look at the Miku version of it, it just, I don't know. It's okay. It's probably like one of the least bad ones here. You guys know me, you've been watching the videos for a long time. I try not to be overly negative. In fact, sometimes I'm overly positive. I try to, find positives in things, but I got nothing on this so far. My enthusiasm for it is low. That, again, would change if the Snapcaster Mage was the guaranteed promo, but it wouldn't even be because of the Secret Lair itself, just more so that you can spend the $30 to get that guaranteed version of one of the few Miku cards they made that actually has some really cool artwork. It just feels disingenuous to say it's a good Secret Lair, even if that's included, but at least it would give you a reason to buy. Scrying Sheets is a cool card with only 2 prints, and really only 1 if you don't count, the list stuff is so hard to get. Most of the time, unless you're buying singles, which is generally going to be a good move regardless. But it is a cool card, really good for snow stuff. And like I said, if you like the artwork, it's cool for you. At least it's not like an 18-cent card they're reprinting, and it's been a while, so it's nice to see that here. And then, of course, Giada, which we've talked about. It's like $1. Giada got a really cool showcase art that I absolutely love in Foundations, and then, there's the Manifoil one, too. So she's already got some kind of high-end premium values. There's this showcase one, too, from Capenna, which I think might be a showcase foil, or is it a gilded foil, maybe? I don't remember. But either way, again, Giada's super affordable as well. There's plenty of accessibility out here for her that you can get that I think has, significantly better artwork. So yeah, we're really just looking at Snapcaster Mage here as the determining factor of whether or not this is worth it to buy, just because of how this card's, this card's value will obviously tank significantly if it does end up being in there. However, I think it will still over time end up being a pretty expensive card simply because of, it's not going to drop. It's going to drop, but how much is it going to drop? Because how many people that do have them already are going to want to buy these up to try to preserve some value on the stuff that they have? It's just one of those things, the nature of the game in terms of, value and collecting and all of that, which, should only play a part in that, but you are spending your money, and you want to make sure that if you're spending your money, you're spending it in a way that you're at least able to kind of recoup something, and I think that's important. And so if Wizards is asking you to spend $30-$40 on a Secret Lair, they really should make it worth your while, and honestly, I'm just kind of underwhelmed entirely by this offering. None of the artworks do much for me. I find the reprints to be lackluster at best, and for something that could have been a really cool product, especially if they had done the art right. And, you know, I say done the art right. It's obviously subjective. Some people might think the art is great. I'm not insulting the art specifically just to be a dick. I'm just saying the general consensus I've seen seems to be that they did not capture the spirit of what makes Miku popular in general, and took this in a very different direction that feels kind of unnecessary. So that's sort of my my understanding of it, and I kind of agree. I'm not a fan of the character. I don't really know much about it one way or another, but I've seen some of the artwork from like other Miku stuff, and it certainly looks cooler than the majority of the artwork that they've designed here, with a couple of exceptions. And I think, again, art is what it really comes down to for this. So, yeah, really kind of underwhelmed. I would not recommend purchasing this personally, unless A, you really like Miku and want to collect these cards, in which case go for it. Just be aware of what you're buying. Or B, they do end up announcing that the Snapcaster Mage is in there as a guaranteed promo, because I do think over time, if that's the case, this will end up being a good value product. Snapcaster always ends up going back up in price after its release, and even when they do reprint it like they did in Innistrad Remastered, it's a very niche, very small reprint in the retro frame slot only, so it's not like it's going to flood the market with a lot of available copies. In fact, the Snapcaster Mage from Innistrad Remastered in retro frame is basically the same price as Snapcaster Mage was before that reprint even happened, so, you know, what are you going to do? But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You think this one's going to be worthwhile or not? I will catch you in the next one. Peace.